$1 prize pool. For some, it is their first ever land. Imagine the jitters, the butterflies, being here for the first time, and maybe seeing your opponent's face the second that they top deck lethal. For others, it is their first time in the United States of America, and really they could not have picked a better place than California to start. I would like to thank all of you guys for joining us here today, whether it's here at the studio bright and early, or for those of you watching from the comfort of wherever you are. Thank you, and I'm sure you are all very excited to see which players are about to go play against each other, see what kind of decks they brought so we can all copy them, and by copy I mean get inspired for our very own, thank you very much, Randall, get inspired for our very own ladder games. And remember, no matter what happens here today, folks, let's have fun, let's cheer for our favorite players, and now let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some Hearthstone games. And who better than to cast our games than our lively and energetic TriCasters? We have Reynad, Frodan, and Azumo Cutie. Take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Anna. Welcome, everybody, to the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series Season 1 Finals. My name is Frodan, and I'm joined on the couch by Azumo and Reynad from Tempo Storm. How's it going, guys?
It's going pretty well, man. I'm looking forward to the final conclusion.
I'm just awake way too early, man. I don't know. That should be fun, though. I'm excited for the games.
You got to see the sun for the first time in a while. What's that like?
Absolutely awful.
It's good for the skin.
Really?
You should go out a little bit more.
I'll think about it.
All right, well, we have a lot of times to think about it because we have a great set of games for you prepared today. What's going to happen is we're having 2 groups that's going to be taking place over the course of 2 days. 8 players have flown from all over around the world, from Europe, from Asia, and of course, not too far, maybe just a little bit in our backyard in North America. As a result, we have 8 players battling for $20,000.
Yeah, you can see on the screen there, Group A, it's going to be Max versus Zalae. Following that is going to be Silent Storm taking on Savage. And of course, Group B is going to be the Taiwanese players getting randomly matched up against each other. Pimping Ho versus Weifu. And these are double elimination group brackets. They were randomly drawn. And of course, that's going to take place today. No player will be eliminated today. And then tomorrow, of course, it's going to be the semifinals and the finals.
That's right. Now remember, the way the prize pool breaks down is that you double up every single round that you advance. So by placing top 8, you get $1,000. Top 4 is $2,000. Second place is $4,000. And first place, of course, is $8,000. But that's not all. The person who wins this land also gets a direct seeding qualifier spot for IEM Katowice to play for $30,000. And of course, at the IEM World Championships happening in March. So there's a lot on the line here, not just some money, not just some pride, but also because there's continual advancement. And of course, World Championship points, which sees to BlizzCon in 2015. It's the first major of the year, and we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, it's definitely seeding into some of the more exciting tournaments of the year. So, well, like you mentioned, the prize pool is nice, but you know these players are looking beyond that. They definitely want just a chance to keep streaking into other lands, keep playing, just make a name for themselves, really, for a lot of these players that we haven't seen before. So, I'm a little bit disappointed to see Taiwanese players get paired against each other because I'm really excited to see more games from those guys.
Yeah.
I love watching just players from that region play more often because we see it so rarely. But, you know, should be some exciting games and definitely great players here all around.
Both of them can still advance. I mean, that's a very real possibility.
That's the nice thing about double elimination. So, yeah.
It's double elimination groups, but we also have a different format, TJ. For anybody who's tuning in for the first time, what can they expect to see as the best of 5s continue?
Yeah, if you guys tuned in to any of the regular season matches for the Hearthstone Legendary Series, we're going back to that format. Basically, each player brings 3 decks. All the matches are best of 5s. What they do is they actually predetermine the order in which they're going to play those 3 decks for the first 3 games. They don't know what their opponent's going to pick. It is blind. If it does go to a 4th and 5th match, basically the players just pick any of the 3 decks that they've already played. It gives them a chance to sort of gauge what decks their opponent's playing, see which one of their decks they think are going to be strongest against their opponent's lineup. It's very sort of like a ladder-style experience for the tournament format.
That's right, because every game you go into it without knowing what your opponent's chosen, right? So it's more of a blind pick-esque every single aspect throughout this best of 5. We have some positive feedback. Some players are also giving us, some comments on how to improve for the next season. But regardless, we're having a lot of fun, and we think it brings an interesting twist to the format.
Definitely. I'm a big fan of formats that are really close to the ladder experience because there's kind of a bit of a disconnect between a lot of tournament formats and what the viewers are used to playing at home when they play ladders. So it's nice to see something that viewers can relate to. And, you know, if you guys want to take decks from this event when it's over, those will transition pretty well into ladders. So I personally was trying a lot of things out that I saw from the weeks that we casted. I tried a lot of Zalae's list. I liked the Warlock twist. And, you know, I tried Pink Mingo's Shaman deck from 1 week. So, yeah, you know, you guys should look forward to some of the decks from today. Give them a try yourselves.
10 out of 10 transition, because look who's on screen. We have Zalae, who is one of our North American players. And in fact, he's a former Magic the Online Player of the Year of 2013. That is his background as a competitive card game player.
Really?
Now he's transitioned to Hearthstone. What do you think about that, Ray?
Man, that is like exactly the year after I stopped paying attention to that. Yeah, the Magic Online players, I have a lot of respect for those guys. That's how I started grinding too. I mean, that just shows that he has great mechanics in card games. You're not going to see a lot of technical errors. Yeah, it's super impressive.
Another player that also prides himself on technical errors and striking good looks is Max from the UK. He is a last-minute replacement for Magic Amy, who was supposed to be here at the LAN, and maybe that can be his continuing of the story, because people look at guys like Sixo, they look at you know, guys similar to him who qualifies for everything, you know, Oskaka, another guy like that, you know, Tice back in the day in Savits, but Max is one of those newcomers who's been qualifying for everything, whether it's EU versus CN, whether it's the DreamHacks or even BlizzCon late last year, and now he's here at ESL. So people are going to have to pay attention to this guy pretty soon.
Yeah, and the reason why we chose Max is he was actually tied for second overall in points and lost the tiebreaker, so he was that close. He had a victory over D2 in week number 2 of the Legendary Series. That was before the winner got automatically qualified, so he definitely deserves his spot here.
Taking a look at the classes, we have Warrior, Rogue, and Hunter for Max. And Zalae is going to bring Mage, Warrior, and Rogue. And keep in mind that this is one of the biggest tournaments that happened post-Undertaker, so the metagame is still in a little bit of a flux. We shouldn't be that surprised to see the Rogues. The Warrior choices, though, are pretty interesting considering how Warrior fell off for a long time, especially with Druid's popularity. What do you think about these guys' classes here? I
like that pick a lot. The 4 strongest decks right now are Mage, Hunter, Rogue, Druid, in that order. And if you're going to play a class that's not one of those 4, Warrior is the best choice, because it's going to be actually pretty strong against Rogue, surprisingly. And you can really punish some freeze Mage players, which is definitely a version of Mage that's pretty strong. And yeah, I like the choices for sure. Surprising not to see Druid, but you know, we'll see how this works out for them. Yeah, we're starting off with Rogue versus Warrior, so I think this does favor Zalae a bit, or I'm not sure if the cams or the names are correct because they're flipped right now, but favors the Warrior.
Looks like Zalae is the Rogue player, though. They might be just the names that are switched there. I think Max is starting off on Warrior as well. And Warrior versus Rogue, I mean, Warrior is also a really good class to fight off against what Rogue does, especially the new popular Oil Rogue that's come out, considering how resilient you are. Not to mention that you can line up the spot removals pretty effectively against their mid-range minions.
Yeah, definitely. You have a lot of answers to Violet Teacher, especially like a Death Spite. If you can get that out pretty quickly early on, it makes it really hard for the Rogue to be able to play a Violet Teacher safely. Because not only are you going to take that out, the second charge of the Death Spite is going to take out all the tokens that are spawned with it as well. So having that in the opening hand is actually a pretty big deal, I think, against this matchup.
Yeah, like you said, that is the most important card. The games that Rogue wins, the Warrior needs to not draw Death Spite. And on top of that, the Warrior even has a 2-drop into a 3-drop, which there are very few of in the Warrior decks. This is basically a perfect draw for the Warrior. It should be very tough to lose.
All right, well, looking at the way that Warrior cards can be pretty straightforward. Rogue, in the meantime, how are they supposed to capitalize on winning here? Shade X Rammus is already a pretty interesting card. Is that really valuable, or is he looking for other things?
That's a fantastic card in this matchup, a great draw. Definitely risky to put into your deck over something like an Earthring Farseer, because you threaten getting punished by more aggressive decks, but it's fantastic in the mirror. It's fantastic against slower decks like Warrior, especially if you draw it early. So this draw is great for the Warrior, but it's also great for the Rogue. I definitely think we're going to see him take out the Armor Smith right here with Backstab SI. Follow that up with a pretty clean curve of, 3, 4, 5. But anything can happen. We'll see if he decides to go for that. Developing the SI would give the Warrior something to Death Spite on 4. So that's going to kind of have it be primed for the Violet Teacher. He's going to go with the Shade instead, just save the Backstab. I kind of like that, actually. You take 1 damage from Armor Smith, but you can still go backstab SI the turn after, and you get your Shade down earlier, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I don't think the damage from the Armor Smith is that important at all compared to getting the Shade buffed a little bit more.
I just wanted the 3-3 out the turn before Deathbite because it's not super likely that
Makes
he has
sense.
War Axe, because you don't keep War Axe against Rogue. So I would like to see the 3-3 being played this turn, but didn't much matter. The Warrior had a War Axe anyway if he went with that line of play. I think we're just going to see Acolyte here. No reason to do anything else.
I think the Shade's a lot more flexible of a card, especially if you get it out earlier as well, because it's nearly impossible for Warrior to remove, and you get to choose when it comes out. So
Is the Acolyte annoying enough where you feel like you have to deal with it now with the Shade, unfortunately? Because there's no clean way to remove it. Well, I guess you have Deadly Poison, so I guess you can do that as well.
Yeah, I'd probably like to see a Deadly Poison here and just kind of sit on Shade for as long as possible. There's not really a reason to do anything else here, I don't think. You could develop SI and, like, okay, if you attack with Shade, you want to backstab SI as well, just so that you have 2 minions out so you can't Deathbite both. And that might honestly be the play, because then, okay, if you develop like 1 minion at a time, the Deathbite's going to be able to just always keep the board clear for the Warrior. Whereas if you have 2 dudes in play doing stuff, basically, the Warrior's kind of behind. He can't really, he doesn't have the mana to deal with both next turn. So I'd like to see backstab on the Armor Smith, SI the Armor Smith, attack into Acolyte.
I think I generally like being a little bit more aggressive, especially as the mid-game ramps up for Rogue, because in the late game, you're going to get out-muscled by what Warrior can do, especially because they can turn on the pressure.
He's going to go for the more passive play, though. We'll see if he finds a time to play this SI. To be fair, this has its own advantages, right? So if the Warrior plays Deathbite this turn, what does he really do with it? So this definitely has some merit.
either way, he's setting it up to make sure that the Warrior can't get it clear on the following turn, because you said it correctly. If you Deathbite this turn, what's he going to do? He can't just Deathbite in anticipation, hoping that he's going to play something next turn like a Violet Teacher. So it makes this turn really awkward.
I would actually like to see that play of just Deathbite go, but it's pretty risky against Harrison, but you don't have to worry about that.
4 mana, yeah.
Yeah, this turn. So it's... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could go for the Acolyte play. I would just like to see Deathbite pass here. I think that play is generally underrated, of just using your mana to develop a weapon.
Well, especially if you have multiple weapons in your hand as well. If you sit on those weapons, then it just makes it harder for you to play those weapons later on in the game. So
the attack is fine as well. He's got, like you said, he has another weapon. Nice to get the charge down. You want it primed for that Acolyte you just drew as well.
And it also gets ahead of the Violet Teacher as well. If there's anything that comes out with Violet Teacher, I mean, that's kind of essentially what this hand is.
For sure.
And those 1/1s, you don't want to underestimate it. The ones that are created through the spells and the Violet Teacher, they add up and rack damage a lot, especially against a class like Warrior, which is naturally very defensive with its health.
Yeah, I'd like to see Shade take out Armor Smith here. I don't think holding it back makes a lot of sense, because I guess it would make it vulnerable to an execute. You still got your 2-for-1 out of Shade, though. Tough call.
It's an execute on that compared to some other things, but you know, how many big threats is a Rogue deck running nowadays right now? Because we know that cards like Dr. Boom, of course, it's been plaguing every single deck in Hearthstone, but beyond Dr. Boom and maybe the occasional Lothar, like what other big cards are there?
Not many. The largest creature you usually see is Azure Drake. Not everyone's playing Lothar. A lot of people don't even play Dr. Boom, so in Rogue, that is. So using an Execute on Shade probably is the best target he's going to have.
There's some players that experiment with, or at least for a while, experimented with putting Ragnaros in the Rogue deck. That was more when the Control-ish Rogue was more popular as opposed to the Oil Rogue, but...
Yeah. It's kind of ironic, too, because I think it's better in the Oil Rogue than it was in that version.
And now you don't see it at all.
Yeah. There's just no room. This deck is so tight. Once people figured out like the cards that you need to be playing, it's just a lot less room to fit stuff like that, unfortunately. Definitely a good card, though. As long as you're not me. All right.
Like this little heads-up play to on the Zalae's end to make sure that the Armor Smith would die in the collision course of the Deathbite effect.
All right, another War Axe. It's definitely just kind of a mind blast in this matchup. If you throw it down, start going face.
Better than Mind Blast, 6 damage.
Yeah. Well, you don't get it all at once, though.
Priest is so underpowered.
Mind Blast isn't blocked by taunt.
Exactly, it doesn't get blocked by taunt. You get all the damage at once.
I guess so.
You get that spell power value. Nerf Mind Blast.
Yeah, Mind Blast overpowered, man.
I mean, Lotheb and Shade in combination is when you want to bring it out, because then it's so expensive to deal with it. Not to mention that now you have effectively 2 5-attack minions that you have to deal with.
Definitely. Playing Sylvanas is always just so scary when they have that much damage in play, because that sap would just absolutely destroy you as the warrior. But War Axe is kind of a safe play. Executes fine as well. I guess Execute saves you some life. That's fine. Well, it only really saves you 2 life. Because... Oh, sorry, 3 life. Because if you War Axe, you'd armor anyway. That's fine.
It does develop a weapon, but and you get to save your Execute. It's a little bit more mana efficient that way as well. Well, either way, I guess he just wants to keep his health as high as possible, too. Azure Drake, one of the better cards that you can ask for against Warrior, especially considering its body. It's pretty annoying, and also you get to dig a little bit deeper for your damage combos.
It's interesting that he opted to play that instead of the Vile Teacher and making a weapon. I guess the thinking is you want to use Vile Teacher on the turn where you make a lot of guys. But I guess Whirlwind's pretty uncommon in Warrior, even though the Warrior does have one right here. So
yeah, so it could have been a little bit unhappy with his hand as well, trying to dig a little bit further in before he plays the Violet Teacher.
Yeah.
Is Lotheb the bigger threat, or is Azure Drake?
Probably Lotheb, just because it directly trades with the Shield Maiden, but this Fan of Knives with spell power is going to be pretty good against Acolyte. So you see, you can backstab Fan, Teacher before that. Seems good.
That's a really clean turn, it seems.
And it starts putting on a little bit of pressure as well, to the point where it needs to recover the board effectively, so that way if it ever draws into the late game combos, Warrior can end the game. Rogue's not working with that much health, and sometimes Rogue trades so much that ends up putting itself within danger zones of getting comboed anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
So we do see Piloted Shredder in this Rogue list with the heal bot.
Wow.
It's interesting. And Shade and X-Ramus. How's he fitting all these cards?
Yeah, what is he cutting specifically?
Must all be one-ofs. Or at least the heal bot, possibly the Shade.
The Piloted Shredder is actually a really good card against slower matchups because it's just so hard to remove. It's so hard to, you have to remove the first body and then you have to take care of the second body. And a lot of the times if you're playing against a slower deck like Warrior, they spend like a whole turn, or they waste a lot of mana on a turn. Removing just both portions of that Piloted Shredder can buy you a lot of time, it can buy you a lot of tempo.
I mean, I want to say that cards like Pilot Shredder is a great metagame call, especially considering the difficulty of other rogues removing like a Pilot Shredder. They need to sap that. Of course, there's better targets to it. Sticky minions is like the enemy of this rogue deck in a lot of ways because of AoE is just limited. But then cards like Shade and X-Ramus, how does that work into the metagame? So it's a very interesting innovation here that Zalae is showing. I mean, we were just getting started, so it's too hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah, the Piloted Shredder in Rogue was actually popularized by Hyped, and he got top 10 in NA, and then a bunch of other Rogue players started using it as well. And the idea isn't so much that you need like a sticky minion. What it really is just a worse copy of Violet Teacher, and Violet Teacher is so good in this Rogue deck that you just want more copies of it. So it gives you like a proactive turn 4 play. Like you said, it's really hard to deal with and all that, but mostly it's Violet Teacher number 3 and 4 when you see it in Rogue.
Well,
That's pretty interesting.
Besides Violet Teacher, Rogues don't really have any other like solid turn 4 plays.
Exactly.
So it makes sense. Makes sense.
And you're starting to see less cards like Sabotage because of this, so maybe we'll see something like Handlock out of nowhere.
I mean, it's one of those things where Handlock is still a great tournament competitive deck considering how it matches up against everything. But if we're expecting to see Hunters, which is increased in popularity, maybe not.
Yeah, honestly, I think Handlock would destroy Hunter right now.
You think so?
I don't think it would be even remotely close. You're seeing like one Hunter's Mark sometimes. They're not that aggressive at all. Yeah, just have all the time in the world to Sun Fury something large. But I don't know. Maybe it's a matchup we'll see. I haven't seen Hunter in too many tournaments recently, even though it is very good right now.
I haven't seen Warlock in a lot of tournaments.
Exactly
not at
that
all.
either, yeah.
And you look at the players' opinions of Handlock versus Hunter over time. This was before the Undertaker nerf. Players were just starting to realize that Handlock was not as weak to Hunter as they initially thought it was. And so I noticed the percentages just going up and up more in favor of the Handlock as it went on. And now Undertaker's nerfed, Handlock hasn't been around for a while. Hunters are starting to become more popular. I can imagine that it'd probably be pretty good.
Definitely. The Slothep choice is pretty interesting in Warrior. It was a great draw on the turn that the Warrior did draw it just to weave into the turn. But usually you don't see Lotheb in kind of defensive decks, which is what Warrior is. But it's so powerful that I like that we're still seeing it in these lists. A lot of times that slot's reserved for things like Harrison. Maybe he's playing both.
Yeah. I think
really aggressive move here.
I think Lotheb is actually pretty good if you're expecting. It's good against Combo Druid as well. It can buy you an extra turn to gain some life, and Rogue. So those two matchups, if you're expecting to see a lot of those, I think Lotheb's actually a pretty good choice.
So
how close is he
to
to
lethal goes? I think he.
You get 6 from Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil. You get 2 from the Viscerate because it would have to initiate, right?
Well, yeah. If that's the absolute most you could get. I wonder if it's better to.
But if it hits one of the 1/1s with the Sharp Sword Oil, then you miss it.
You can get a definite like 3 from Oil and then 4 from Eviscerate.
Right.
Which is like 7 from hand, or you can go for the 6 plus 4.
Oh, here we go. What's it going to drop on? This actually determines it all.
I'm ready to learn.
Oh!
Yeah, so he actually had it.
That's
if you
rough.
flip.
Yeah.
Hey, lights out.
And now he spent his whole turn thinking of if he wanted to do that play or not. So now that it didn't go his way, he has to think of the optimal way to finish out this turn. And
I mean, he might also just be dead if it draws.
Warrior's 1 mana off lethal, I believe, right now. Unless I'm miscounting. Yeah, 1 mana off lethal.
You could Baron get in, Cruel Taskmaster, Fiery War Axe.
So this is just awkward for everyone. Huh.
That summarizes my high school experience pretty well.
Could he draw into
never
anything?
mind. This is great for. Well, okay, it's not great, but. I mean, what you can do is like run Sylvanas into Violet Teacher, play Baron Geddon, steal the Shredder.
That's true. Looks like he's going to dig, though.
Yeah, I like the Harrison play more.
Wow, he was 1 card. He was 1 card off of being able to end the game right now.
Yep.
I mean, he still has to guarantee the following turn, assuming his opponent doesn't have a heal. But that's also something weird about the Antique Heal bot compared to a Farseer.
So is there any way to just not be dead here? Well, you pretty much just have to dodge direct damage from Rogue, which is, as far as we know, going to happen. I mean, the Warrior can still win. I guess you take out Violet Teacher and go face with the weapon.
I think the Baron Geddon play that you mentioned earlier would probably have been his best chance of surviving, but maybe he thought that he could dig for something that would have made it a little better.
Okay,
so he's stealing a minion. Oh, well, there's a possibility. I mean, Rogue needs to draw 1 damage.
He actually was just about to concede because if he had stolen the Violet Teacher instead, it would have been lethal on board. So just checking.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that War Axe play. that's super ambitious because like you're sitting on lethal on hand.
Right.
So I don't know.
I mean, the Fan of Knives can just draw into lethal as well. No.
Oh, not it.
Wow. This is insane. I feel like the Rogue is kind of getting robbed here a little bit, but to be fair, both players had a great draw, and the matchup does favor Warrior.
He needed 1 point of direct damage.
Yeah.
1 point.
Is there any way to salvage this whatsoever?
Well,
considering what the Warrior has?
So you trade into Harrison. Looking at 6, 9, plus 4. I guess you have to heal bot, right?
Right.
There's just no other way to live. And this is a situation where like a sprint would have been better than a Dr. Boom. Whereas usually I favor Dr. Boom. Here, whoa.
Wow. Well, he ignores the Harrison Jones and goes aggressive.
Pays off. He's one off.
For now, until...
Oh,
One
man.
health.
Wait. That's ridiculous. It's been 1 health off for multiple turns now for both guys. Unless we're counting wrong.
I don't think the Warrior was expecting anti-Keelbot here. It's a pretty uncommon choice in Rogue.
Absolutely.
So it definitely wasn't doing math for it. I feel like the Warrior just assumed, you know, if I survive this turn, I'm going to have lethal with this Gromosh, but not the case. All of a sudden, might regret not going face with that weapon last turn. Maybe going for a slightly different clear.
Is there any way that this pilot... All right, well, Lore Walker show. I mean, it's going to trade spells.
Oh, no.
Interestingly enough, only the Warrior player has a spell.
Yeah, well, he actually has to armor up, so he can't play Baron Gaiden either.
Right.
Either way, he's dead to just weapons. This is going to be taunt. So
it very much be the case where a spell alone might be enough to kill it. It doesn't even matter that Lore Walker is there.
I'd like to see an attack here with the weapon. What are you going to do, attack a minion with it?
That's true. Oh, he's got it.
Oh, there
he's
it
got
is.
it.
Yeah.
The spell power with the Thanos should be able to do it as long as you sequence it correctly. It doesn't even matter how you sequence it, honestly. So that's going to wrap up game number 1. And Zalae will be able to take out a match in a... Well, and honestly, it's a matchup that was pretty tough for the Rogues.
Yeah, it can go either way. I think Warrior is like slightly favored, but yeah, definitely a great draw from both players. And
can you imagine a Warrior using Blade Flurry with Gorehowl?
Oh, no.
Well, that wraps up the first game, and Zalae takes a 1-0 lead in this best of 5.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go on to where we'll see whether or not the Max can come back here.
yeah. It's just a small side note, but you mentioned Blade Flurry Gorehowl. I've had that happen against me. I played Blingtron, and then I got wrecked.
That seems to be the case.
It's a very believable story, Andre.
There's no justice in the world, man.
Well, you know, we have another Rogue available for Max, and he also has Hunter. What do you think is the go-to for here for Max?
I mean, it's pretty much a blind pick format, right?
That's right. That's right.
It doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll leave it up to the RNG guys. In my opinion, for when I played this format, I tried to leave Warlock for last, for example, because it's like the class that has the most different versions. It honestly just doesn't matter, in my opinion. I thought long and hard about this format, and I think you just kind of roll a die in terms of the order and just try to be unpredictable that way. That's literally what I did. I used a random number generator in like a web browser. So as for what he picked, for what order, I can't really see a benefit either way. We'll see what he ended up going with. So yeah, Mage second versus Hunter. This is a matchup, surprisingly, that actually favors Mage, I think, because of Flare being uncommon in Hunter. There are a lot of versions of Mage. It's kind of taken Warlock's spot as the most flexible class. So, you know, you're going to see Mech Mage, Freeze Mage, Fatigue Mage, all of which I think are actually slightly favored against Hunter. But very close matchup, can still go either way. Probably 60-40 Mage.
Is it going to get to a point where Hunters start to tech in Flare? If Hunters are starting to make a huge comeback on the ladder, and if the two most popular classes are Mage and Hunter on the ladder, at what point do you say, well, maybe I should start teching in a Flare?
I mean, that's what Hype said. He came out with an article writing about what he thought about the meta game, and he said that he got flared on ladder, and it was like the most unexpected random thing. It was in a Hunter mirror as well. So
I've lost 3 games to Kezan Mystic this week because I'm playing Freeze Mage. And can't never stream Freeze Mage. Anyway, this Flare is probably a much safer pick. Kezan Mystic kind of completely dead when, well, not completely dead, but you don't want a 4-mana 4/3 in your deck. Flare, on the other hand, still going to cycle.
You don't want to when you're playing show matches either.
No, you don't.
Well, if you're aiming at it, I don't think you ever want to.
You know, man, so judgmental.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Looks like we're going to game number 2, guys, and Zalae is up 1-0. It's Mage versus Hunter, and already some interesting choices. It's a Mech Mage. It's not the Freeze Mage or the Fatigue Mage that we've been seeing.
Mauling Bow here is just incorrect. Like, Mage is a deck that's just a pile of 2/3s, and, well, at least, you know, you have to account for the possibility of it being Mech, so I would have liked to see him keep the Bow there. But that's a great draw anyway.
Pretty good curve.
Yep. As the mage here, you only want the Snow Chugger. No reason to keep the Tinkertown.
Like he just wanted a quicker start than having a bow. He wanted to
just-
make sure he had a play on turn 2.
Yeah, that's fair. That might be more important than the bow, I guess. He's going to keep the Tinkertown.
4/4
it
body
pays
can be
off.
problematic, though.
Yeah, for sure. Especially against Hunter.
Oh man, this piloted shredder over water elemental heresy right here. Look at this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, your version of Mech Mage includes a lot of water elementals, so that way you can, leverage its tempo that you
Yeah,
gain from
so
it,
I
right?
get Light's Justice and they get nothing. It's great.
That's right. With Blink Charm.
Mm.
You're just too far ahead of the meta right now.
You know, somebody got rank 1 with that deck that last week in NA.
But it wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
No,
no.
that's too bad.
So many shots all the time.
So let's talk a little bit about Hunter. People who might be watching, maybe they haven't played Hearthstone for a couple weeks and they thought Hunter was gone when the Undertaker nerf. Why is it back?
Pretty much the prevalence of Rogue was a big part of it. Rogue got refined to the point of just being a very strong class. Gets board control, it can snowball, it can kill you very quickly with Tinkers, like with oil. And basically, it was just kind of dominant for a few days. So people started turning to decks that are naturally good against it, and Hunter was one of them. The hero powers just line up very favorably for Hunter. And yeah, just kind of built a slower version of the deck, not so much all in with Leper Gnomes anymore. And yeah, it's just as resilient as ever. Most of them play Piloted Shredder like every other deck as well. Just a great snowbally card, so. Yeah, I mean,
Undertaker was there a lot of the time just to give you like snowbally head starts, and a lot of the times Hunters could win against a lot of the matchups that you would see nowadays, even without Undertaker starts, because of how the matchup lines up. And both Face Hunter and Mid-Range Hunter have a lot of good matchups with a lot of the meta deck choices that players are going with.
yeah, Hunter's definitely weaker than it used to be because it doesn't get as many free wins with Undertaker, but it's stronger in other ways because now that you're not committing slots to playing 1-mana 2/1s, all of a sudden your deck's a lot more robust. You have a pretty solid matchup against control decks because you just have a lot more game going late now. I mean, we're starting to see like Ragnaroses, Sylvanas. You're just playing more than just high main for your late game.
Not one.
And Dr. Boom.
That's a good point. Not one, but 2 Dark Iron Doors, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is very interesting. We've seen the 4 slot being taken by Houndmaster. Of course, is sometimes rotated back in because of its sheer power level at 4 mana.
Bolt Master as
or
well.
even Cult Master, exactly. But Dark Iron Door, very interesting choice indeed.
You should run that into the, I guess, faces. Oh, yeah, okay, this is fine.
I really like the Cold Master edition actually, because a lot of times Hunters would just run out of juice in some matchups, and gives you a way to just sort of cash in on.
Remember when you were made fun of for running Cult Master? People were like, I think Cult Master is terrible.
You know what
I
I
remember
think?
a lot of things for that.
You know what I think make
An
a great
elephant
card
never
in Hunter?
forgets.
Oasis Snapjaw.
Oasis Snapchat.
Oasis Snapjaw.
That guy.
That was a Strife Crow innovation.
I remember him playing that in Bucharest, I think. I remember a long time ago.
Do you know how smart Strife Crow is, by the way? Did I show
Pretty
you? Did I
smart.
show you this list? There was a list that there's predictions made off what are the best GVG cards, and some people were like Trogzor
yeah,
would be
he
great.
said Dr. Boom is like #1.
Let me finish the story. So,
Come on.
a lot of people said Trogzor was #1. I thought Vol'jin was going to be really good. People were saying Vol'jin was going to be the sickest legendary or best card. Shrifeco wrote #1, Dr. Boom. #2, left Boombot. #3, right Boombot. And we're like, right there. It's like, oh, Shrifeco wins. Like, he's so intelligent. And of course, he also predicted correctly, like Mech Warper and all those other really good cards, Pilot Shredder.
A lot of people were writing off Dr. Boom when they first saw it. And couldn't really gauge the strength of it, but
There are just so many new expensive guys that it was tough to see that it was like the best one by a mile, I definitely did not see that card coming. This makes a lot more sense that the Hunter mulligan the bow now, because knowing that he plays 2 dwarfs, you definitely need a 2-drop. You need Haunted Creeper to make that card
Some
happen.
kind of board to leverage the battle cry.
if you had mulliganed away, or if you had kept the bow and ended up with like a 4-drop for the next turn, and then draw into another 4-drop, then he would just been on a web spinner for his first 2 turns. So I think at some point you have to realize that you need to play proactively, especially in this matchup.
Well, the one thing that this Mech Mage tries to do is get ahead on the board by utilizing cards like Mech Warper and really cheap minions and utilizing its spells, but it seems like it's fallen behind on board, and that's where sometimes his deck can flounder a little bit.
Yeah, as the mage, you definitely need to get board control early and then just kind of freeze them out of direct damage and snowball from there. Lack of water elemental may or may not make that a little more difficult, but you know. Who's counting?
What to do? Time runs out on me.
Uh-oh, probably going to see a trade here.
Yeah. It's just too much damage.
Okay. I like this play.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, set up so that way you can ping down the Dark Iron Dwarf. Onoyotron absorbs a lot of damage, and you gain some pretty good tempo by leveraging that Frostbolt and hero power.
This double Iron Beak Owl, though. Is it Juggler double Owl time? Owl the Noitron, Owl your own 4-1?
Oof.
I think so. Unfreeze your minion, trade up.
That'd be a pretty cool play if it works out. The Juggles can also be really clutch, too.
Definitely. If he takes out that Ringleader, this is just the best possible turn.
Yeah, definitely.
Here we go.
That's a misplay, and a pretty big one, because he was going to Owl the Noitron anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was no reason not to...
Owl the
Oh, you're
Noitron
absolutely
first.
right.
Because that's basically a wasted juggle.
Exactly.
Well, well, now that this play happened, do you just go with the trade anyways? And
Well, what's going through his
save
mind
the
right
owl?
now is, I know I messed up, but do I admit it by owling the Noitron now, or do I make it look like I never intended to owl
hero
the
power.
Yeah, which is what's, yeah. I've been in this boat. I would rather save face than win.
I mean, that Night Juggler living is a really big deal, too. Like, you know, the fact that this Ringleader will pick up that trade or at least make it
like
easier.
a big, because he even had a 50-50 here to juggle, which would save his juggler from being traded off into. I definitely would have played the owl after the fact as well, but yeah.
At least you can say that he was weaving his hero power in on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, is Mage just really far ahead now? Hunter doesn't have a whole lot left to work with, even though he was so far ahead, but like at the beginning of that turn. So now you just trade in, ping off the guy, play a Shredder. All of a sudden, the Mage is doing pretty well.
His hand is still pretty clunky, but he does have a little bit of initiative just because his board's just a tiny bit stronger.
I'd like to see an Iron Beak Owl on the Piloted Shredder here, and then just going face, I think.
Well, let's see what he gets off Animal Companion first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Hunter can afford to trade, but maybe you do to play around Blast Mage. I think it's a losing play, though, to trade. I think you have to go face here.
Right, you have Kill Command as well,
Yeah.
so I think pushing in that damage, that might be your last opportunity, considering that you could draw into Kill Command number 2 as well.
Yeah, so Hunter's still in a great spot. I mean, top decks are going to matter, but it's very tough for the Mage to kill the Hunter before the Hunter draws lethal at this point. Especially because every minion the Mage is going to be playing is just going to make that Unleash the Hounds more and more dangerous. The trick here is to save a Noitron as long as possible. You only want to play it on the turn that they're going to kill you, like a Lotheb, for example.
Oh, the Blast Mage shots could be huge here.
4 shots. Ooh. Oh.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Dwarf turn into a 2-4 maybe? No.
I might have thought the other way around of putting the switch on the Noyotron.
Yeah,
so he could force the Dark Iron Dwarf to trade into it. But since he has the hero power, though, and he can kind of weave that in throughout the next couple of turns, that's also acceptable.
So Noyotron's really problematic. He's used both of those Iron Beak Owls, and to get through that, it's just...
I definitely think we're going to see an Unleash here. Just 3 mana, destroy Noitron, because you really want to hit face with Dwarf here. It does get rid of your only beast, though, as the Hunter, so he's going to have to draw on for the kill command, but, you know, that should be reasonably likely.
Yeah, but you look at his other options, it's... You don't want to throw that 4 damage into, like, an Noyotron Divine Shield.
Would you kill command now, then, since you don't have the guarantee of the beast? Since
No, because you have to play... Well, if you Shredder, you can't hero power, huh?
Right.
I guess you do kill command. Well...
Fills up the curve quite nicely.
It puts him at, what, 3 health?
Wow.
Oh, that's
boy.
painful.
And he threw the damage in anyway.
He's playing more control style. I mean,
This is going to give him time for Piloted Shredder to do stuff, so this isn't the absolute worst. But it's definitely an interesting line of play. It's a lot less aggressive than we'd usually see. I mean, assuming the mage is holding a bunch of burn, this play is better because you don't want to just die to the counter swing or, you know, die 2 turns from then.
true. Very good point. 2 fireballs, you know, is just, you just are surprised how much damage you can push out with just a Goblin Blast Mage and another minion.
At the same time, though, putting him at 3 and putting yourself in a spot where you're just either 2 turns away or drawing into 1 point of direct damage the following turn.
Right,
He would
but
literally had to have had double fireball in his hand to kill you
Even a
next
single
turn.
fireball, I think, over 2 turns would have been enough, assuming the Blast Mage and the 4/1 would live.
What to do?
Because if you run the Unleash the Hound's dogs into the Noitron, and then you go face with the Dwarf, you're still leaving like 9 power on the Mage's side of the table. And if you don't top deck, that's going to kill you with like a single Frostbolt even.
Yeah.
I don't like this play. I would have liked to see Dr. Boom reversing switch, just because you need the damage. Because you need to kill Hunter very quickly here as the Mage.
right, you're on a very short clock with that hero power, especially if he draws into any more damage like an Eagle Horn Bow.
I think you just stealth now, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Now he's like an Eagle Horn Bow away from finishing off the game the following turn. Or kill command.
I mean, how is Mage going to do this? Needs a taunt. But, I mean, this deck doesn't really run any taunts. Except a Noyatron, so he needed a second Noyatron even if he's running it. Well, it's like you said, Andre. He's going to need some help. If he feels like he might die too,
I think
Is
you
he-
have to ping your own Doom.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Boombot,
Do you
yeah.
shoot your own Boombot to try to do damage enough?
I don't see another play here. I mean, it gives you a chance of not taking 4. The chance is,
I mean, Cogmaster
25%.
is also a significant amount of damage as well.
If you shoot your own Boombot, it also makes it so that you won't die to an Unleash the Hound's top deck the following turn.
Ah, that's a good observation, TJ.
As opposed to playing the,
Or Mind
the
Control.
Cogmaster. Oh.
Ooh.
well, Mad Scientist is not what the Hunter wanted to see here. Definitely just going to see an attack to the face, a hero power, and a dream, I guess. He's got to draw into lethal here. And survive this turn. Is there a way?
12. Second Fireball.
Second fireball, yeah.
It's not it.
Is there? What if Boombots hit face twice for 8 damage?
Whoa.
I mean, that okay. So let's say he does that. It's 8, 7, 15, 18, 24. Yeah,
That's lethal.
Actually, it just has to hit 6 to the face.
But what if it kills the Mad Scientist and he gets second freezing trap?
I mean, it's all a possibility.
So I think I'd like to see a ping on the Scientist and then an attack into the Scientist, because you want your second Boombot to proc the freezing trap.
Yep. Well, it ends up getting it anyways without having to use the mana.
Right.
I mean, he can just load up as much damage as he can. And keep in mind that he's got Fireball in hand, so he pretty much effectively has lethal. Like, Hunter needs to win now.
Oh.
And that's not it. The Savannah Highmane he's 1 damage off.
That's heartbreaking.
Yep, not going
it's
face earlier
game-ending.
might have. It's tough to say if the Hunter would have won with the other line of play, because the Mage would have had so much damage so much sooner. So.
That's
Wow.
2 games in a row now that Max has been 1 damage off lethal the turn prior to losing the game. So pretty rough, but Zalae is going to take game number 2.
It's got to be pretty disheartening for Max here. It was some frustrating losses, just so close.
Yeah,
It's
very
so far.
tight every single turn. And it's like you said, there's a lot of decisions where he could have gone more aggressive, but you know, he went for the control play, and that's the risk that you run, because is the Mage going to be able to outdraw you over time with just better quality draws? And now he's down 0-2, and he He realistically could win the set right back because of the way the format works.
For sure.
But it's like it's already been decided. He already chose that Rogue would be his last deck, and it's going to match up against whatever Zalae has.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating losses for Max. But I mean, they've been really good games so far. They could easily have gone either way. I'm sure Game 3 will be no different. You could easily see a reverse sweep here. If there's a format that can happen in, I feel like this is it.
Sure.
It's actually happened quite a few times over the course of the regular season of the Legendary Series where a player was down 2-0 and then ended up coming back to win 3-2. Once you get to that blind pick phase, you can really get a gauge of what your opponent's playing. It allows you to pick a little bit better. And also you can pick a deck that you're feeling more comfortable with if you practice it a little bit more coming into the tournament, or if you think it's just a better meta choice. It's blind, but it's not quite as blind as the first 3 matches because you at least know what you're up against.
All right, so Warrior versus Rogue, but this time it's flipped around for Game 3. Zalae, of course, being on the Warrior side and Max on the Rogue. And let's see what tech is going to be available, right? Because these guys, first of all, they don't know what classes were available when they made the lineup, so they didn't get to see their opponents. It was more of just, I'm going to order it these 3. But more importantly, like, what choices do I get to make now that I know, my opponent's going to be playing a matchup that's good for him? So these are the things that are be going through these minds. I really don't know if he can do it because, again, it's going to be a tougher matchup for Max because the Rogue does tend to struggle against Warrior.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough matchup, but it's not unwinnable. It's pretty close, like 40-60 in favor of Warrior. Definitely see it going either way. Piloted Shredders help a lot for the Rogue side. He's most likely playing those. It's been more common to see those than not. So yeah, I mean, we saw an upset last time in that matchup. Could easily happen again. The Shade and Axramus, I feel like, went a long way towards helping the Rogue in the last series where these classes faced each other, but that's a pretty uncommon choice. I doubt Max is going to have that, but we don't know. It's impossible to say. He's playing two Dark Iron Dwarf and Hunter, so anything could be in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I like Dwarf. That card's sweet. Super underrated. Dwarf,
I mean, it's often forgotten, right? Just because, it's a common card. It's from the classic set. People are obsessed about, Pilot Shredder. People were not really paying attention to Dark Iron Dwarf, but its stats alone are pretty strong.
Yeah.
You can leverage its Battle Cry.
Back in the day, it was put into almost every single deck because it used to give the +2 attack permanently.
Yeah, it was a permanent stack.
You think about that, you think back and you're saying, wow, it's strong
How
now.
foolish and young we were.
Exactly.
Not anymore, though.
Ooh, Bomb Lobber.
There we go.
That's a really cool card. I think Bomb Lobber is another card that's pretty underrated. Even though when it first came out, everyone really thought it was some sweet stuff, and then,
it really is underrated, though. It gets better in, the fairer the metagame is. So the more decks that are playing just mid-rangey Piloted Shredder strategies, the better Bomb Lobber is. We saw a lot of decks trying to ignore that with Undertaker Shenanigans, Freeze Mage, Fatigue Druid. There's a lot of non-Hearthstone being played, which made cards like Bomb Lobber not so good. But, now that metagame's starting to even itself out, we're seeing a lot more balanced decks. Cards like that's going to do a lot better.
Bomb Lobber's going to snipe this Shade and Axramus.
Yeah, it's about to get wrecked. But I think, you do just drop another minion. Maybe you go Prep Sprint here.
Yeah, you'd be at 8 cards. So
Prep Sprint just... It doesn't play around Bomb Lobber, but who plays around Bomb Lobber?
Well, I think he's going to have to start playing about Bomb Lobber if it enters the next game soon.
If he doesn't attack this Acolyte. GG.
Oh, boy.
That's rough.
Well met.
That is rough.
Shade and Axramus, well met. Here we go. This is just, that's brutal. I don't know how Rogue comes back from that. That's very, very hard. The Warrior even has Lotheb, one of the best cards against Rogue.
And his curve from that point on is going to be so powerful to deal with anything he wants to.
Yeah, the following turn after that, he's got the option of Lotheb, Sludge Belcher.
Now, there are Azure Drakes, and I think there's a lot of board clear power on the Rogue side in this deck. But that is so painful. Oh, my goodness.
All right.
It's just like you're playing another game, you're hiding in the corners. Like, how do you know I was there? And you just die. It's like you have no idea how, but the Bomb Lobber is so effective at that. And now look at the board state. The Rogue is super far behind.
To be fair, though, Warrior usually can't end the game too quickly against a Rogue because it's going to be behind most of the game. So, if he's playing double sprint, the Rogue's going to be able to draw the entire deck. A lot of times the Warrior can't stop just 2 oils worth of damage throughout the course of a game. So a big Blade Flurry can still turn things around later on in the mid stages. So the Rogue's not completely out of it, but definitely a horrible interaction for the Rogue there.
Yeah, even though that Bomb Lobber put a lot of the momentum in Zalae's favor, leveraging the preparation sprint early on like that, especially right on turn 4, is actually still a really strong play. So
we see some players, most Rogues play 1 sprint. We see some of them playing double sprint as of late. Sometimes they play like 1 Gadgetson instead. But yeah, you mentioned Rogues don't have a lot of 4-drops usually, but you know, if you don't have Violet Teacher, prep sprint and next best thing.
it's fantastic.
What now?
I like the Gadgetson edition.
Yeah, it's good if you're good at drawing preparation. So I've definitely had the games where it's a 6-mana 4/4.
Yeah.
And you're just praying it was sprint, but yeah, it can just be insane too.
At the same time, sometimes you value that body a little bit. Sometimes you can get caught. If you play double sprint, you always have those games where you just get caught with double sprint in your hand early on. And sometimes you just wish that was a 4/4. So it goes both ways, I suppose.
Personally, I don't play any of the card draw mechanisms. It's like I think I'm one of the few Rogues that does that, but I think the sprint is correct. Like, the players who are really Rogue masters tend to prefer 2 sprint from what I've seen, so I'm probably in the wrong on that.
There seemed to be a struggle on what was best on turn 5, I guess between the Sludge Belcher and the Lotheb, but was there really that big of a debate?
This turn is so good for Rogue. You just attack the Bomb Lobber, heal your guy, attack the Lotheb SI. It's just so clean. None of your stuff's vulnerable to execute. Now the Rogue's just super far ahead on board all of a sudden.
I think the Sludge Belcher might have been a little bit better in that situation. Even though you're blocking out the Violet Teacher from being able to create tokens, you're protecting that Bomb Lobber. It's tough to say. I guess with no real way to deal with a lot of tokens on board if they're played. It could be pretty easy to remove a Sludge Belcher with a couple spells.
I think the only play you can make here realistically is Sylvanas. I mean, there is the Piloted Shredder weapon play. I guess you can expect Sap because you've seen Preparation Sprint already. So I guess the most reasonable play here is weapon Piloted Shredder. Knowing the hands, Sylvanas is actually a much better play. So
it's a good board. It's resilient to the damage. The thing though is the weapon can take out 2 minions. Sometimes, like if you're playing the weapon, you just get stuck on 1 charge use, and then you can't do anything else with it. I think it might be okay as well. Considering next turn he might be able to drop, the Sludge Belcher and the Armor Smith afterwards.
yeah, weapon Shredder is not much worse. It might even be better, assuming the Rogue would top deck a Sap. So
He is locking out the potential for Gorehowl next turn, but I don't think he's really too worried about that.
no, it's definitely a turn that he's planning on playing Shield Maiden, Shield Slam.
Yeah.
Second prep, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You have Violet Teacher, you have Oil.
But as we've seen, playing Oil with the Violet Teacher on board, especially in combination with the prep, can backfire relatively easily.
Alright, well, good thing he attacked the Pilot Shredder just in case anything else popped out of it, like a
It's a
Doomsayer.
super interesting play. He's not doing very much with his lead at all. I would have gone for the Oil. I mean, if it lands on the minion you want it to land on, it's fantastic. If it doesn't, it's still pretty strong. Wow, Eviscerate.
It's putting 5 damage.
If he was willing
into
to
that Point System.
eviscerate, if he was willing to eviscerate, why wouldn't he have eviscerated the 4/3?
Right, take less damage.
Well, he might have kept his minion around.
Yeah, it was less damage on the I mean, he's taking it a little bit slower, less aggressive, but is that going to pay off, though? Because, again, it's like one of those things where, Rogue really wants to be able to get a lot of mileage out of the Violet Teacher. It's one of those most powerful cards in this deck.
Yeah, Rogue still has so many resources to work with. Still has an Azure Drake, Farseer, develop another threat. A ton of weapon buffs and Blade Flurry in hand. I mean, honestly, it looks pretty good for Rogue. Warrior is going to have an uphill battle, even with that insane Bomb Lobber start. And it's interesting to note, too, that this is the second rogue we've seen with Shade and X-Ramus. So I think the rogues are kind of teching for the mirror match in this tournament. And it's not just that we're seeing Shade. We're seeing Shade with Earthen Ring Farseer. So it's like very unorthodox lists. These aren't what you would traditionally see on ladder. We're seeing a lot of 3-drops.
Out of most of the classes, though, it seems like the rogue would have the easiest time removing a stealth Shade. Like with Blade Flurry or like a spell-powered Phantom Knives.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're teching it expecting a lot of mirror matches.
That's sprint number 2. He has that on over Gadget soon. I mean, sometimes with second sprint coming into play, you see the rogue deck out against Warrior.
Oh, yeah,
or you know, other classes that are pretty slow.
That Eviscerate sure would be nice here.
It would be. Might be able to pick up another one with the sprint.
That's true. Is it better than just oil poison, though?
How much damage is that? It's 6 plus 2. It's 8, 9.
He doesn't really want to
13.
prep the oil, because then all you can develop is a Farseer if you go for that line of play. But, I mean, maybe... I'm just a big fan of playing oil when you're ahead on board.
That's crazy. That's 20 damage right now, I think, combo.
Yeah.
I think if I calculate the spell power correctly, that's so much.
Yeah, looks like that's going to be what it is.
Here we go.
Keep the deadly poison. Fair enough. It's a good middle of the road play. You would prefer to just go deadly poison all out?
I don't... No. I would have gone poison and just attacked the maiden. And played Farseer. You know what I mean? So I'd have a giant weapon and a Blade Flurry.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He's still pretty healthy. He can afford to take quite a bit of damage. Especially if Farseer was going to be the play as well.
I mean, I like this play for the pressure as well, though.
Yeah, this is fine. I mean, the difference is you cash in your Blade Flurry sooner, I guess.
Right.
Which, considering that the Rogue is ahead on board, there's probably not going to be a great Blade Flurry for you in the immediate future, so this is fine. And he has Sprint, so probably draw into a second.
I mean, I can foresee that being a problem if Warrior had more minions, but Warrior's dropping one thing at a time usually. Maybe the Armor Smith behind it, and even then, you have opportunities to sprint to sap or something else specifically. So I think this kind of pressure play is more than appropriate. The question is, how does Warrior fight back from this spot? Because now everything is, I mean, doesn't even have a way to deal with this Azure Drake.
No, the game's
easily.
straight up over, yeah, because you can't deal with the Azure Drake. When you can attack 2 times with a 7-power minion as the Rogue, there's just, oh man, there's no way. I can't believe that Rogue managed to be so far ahead twice in this matchup, though. It really goes to show, I mean, just how powerful of a deck it is. Rogue's generally considered as one of the top 2 classes in the game right now, and for good reason. It's definitely a class that I expect everyone to have at this tournament.
Decides to go ahead straight up remove the Azure Drake here. Take the 7 damage to the face. It's too much of a threat with the spell power as well. The other option I think would be to play Sludge Belcher and hide an Armor Smith behind it.
Yeah, but then it's the same thing because you're vulnerable to sap and you still don't have a way to deal with the Azure Drake. So.
Or even with the spell power on the board, it'd be pretty easy to remove the Sludge Belcher.
Do you think the Rogue plays 2 sap? Maybe that's something they've shaved in order to fit in all these other cards.
Maybe a shiv that's taken out too.
Yeah.
Have we seen the sap at all?
Not yet this game, but I mean, inconclusive based off of the draw so far.
Yeah, I'm sure there's at least 1, but might not be 2. Every time I try cutting that card, Hyped yells at me. He loves sap.
It's amazing for tempo.
Oh, that would have been good a turn ago.
Yeah. Fortunately, that 7/4 Drake is already dealt with. I mean, he's still barely alive, right?
Yeah.
Just barely. But again, that sap could just destroy him.
Is there... Oh, let's see. Can you survive with Shield Maiden?
Let's see. If you have Shield Maiden, there's 8 damage facing, and you'd be up to 15.
I think that's a better play, right? Because this way you don't just die to sap. You haven't seen one all game. The Rogue's drawing a lot of cards. It's very likely that he has one.
Best to try and stabilize before put out good sap targets. Best way to survive.
Well, pretty good draw to go with that Lotheb. I think that is going to be the play we see, along with just going face. I mean, you could kill the Shield Maiden. I would just rather let it live and go face here.
So many options.
Not really, Valir. There's only a couple here, but I get the gist of it.
Sprint's not that bad, but yeah, I like playing the minions first before you.
Here we go.
All right, so Shield Maiden's going to be able to take out Vile Teacher or Lotheb, depending. And I guess Warrior's just all in on this this Sludge Belcher now.
Yeah, it's pretty much now or never. How much health do we have remaining?
Well,
after
that's a good draw. So what you do here is you Taskmaster the Lotheb and then Big Game Hunter it, play Sludge Belcher, and kill Violet Teacher, and all of a sudden it looks way better for Warrior. That Taskmaster doesn't look flashy, but that is a great draw.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And you know, if he draws to Alex Draza or something, bounces his life back up, takes his time, and I mean that's where Rogue's sprint does come in though, because that's where it gets like they just reload and start pressuring you again.
But this is going to be a good way for him to start stabilizing, because even if the sap comes out next turn, it's.
What about
He still
Blade
could be
Flurry
dead.
number 2?
Blade Flurry number 1 could still be in hand, I'm just saying. All right. Sprint. How many cards are left in the Rogue's deck, I wonder?
More than 2, and that is Sap.
I think we're going to see a backstab SI here, though.
Yeah, has to take as much power off the board. In fact, he was in danger of dying if he wasn't able to deal with some of these minions.
Yeah.
Now that South Sea, it's not an inclusion we see in every Rogue list, but having that single copy along with oil, that just threatens so much damage out of nowhere. And it's fantastic in spots like this where, you know, you have a lot of cards, you have a sap, they only have one taunt minion. So at this point, Max is just going to be looking for his other oil.
Are people playing 2 oils though? I thought 1 was the standard.
2's pretty standard. Almost everyone plays 2.
Okay.
That's another card I tried shaving. Hype yelled at me.
I mean, I personally like it because I don't see the purpose of calling it Oil Rogue if you're only playing 1. But
Yeah. I don't know. I just call it Rogue.
It can be pretty rough if you get caught with 2 oils in your hand early on, but
This guy's
it could also be terrible if you need to draw into that oil.
I mean, he's not afraid of dying, right? 10. I mean, the most his opponent can do is 22 damage at the moment. I mean, that is ballsy. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it change what he can draw to have lethal? Because he's going to assume his opponent's at 7, so...
Right.
I guess...
If he drew Blade Flurry or Eviscerate,
What now?
because he has a sap. So he can attack with the
Right.
face, and then he has Thaunos. So if he draws Blade Flurry or Eviscerate, it'd be lethal.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I
pretty
think that's
good then.
pretty good
Yeah.
forward thinking here from Max. That was very impressive.
He's running thin on cards, so he probably has a good idea of exactly what cards are still left in his deck. So it's probably definitely a calculated decision.
That second Belcher is such a good draw. That's gonna remove any vulnerability to sap. All of a sudden, it looks way better for Warrior. But at this point, he's just looking for something like shield block, I think.
Maybe Alex
Yeah.
Draza would
Alex
be
Draza.
Alex
pretty good as
Draza.
well.
Yeah, good point. We see some people cutting it actually. Oh.
Oh, man. He wants more damage.
I mean, in
Is
a
that,
way,
is that lethal next turn? It is, because of Core Howl. So he's going for a lethal play.
yeah. Odds is
Fan
probably
of
better.
Knives is not it.
It's pretty good though.
It is pretty good. Still needs a little bit more juice to try to end this game and climb back into the series.
A little bit more business, one might say.
Give him the
Hey,
business.
second sab. Does that mean that... Oh, wait, no, he doesn't have enough mana. I was like, does that mean that if he played the second Sludge Belcher, he'd be dead? But I think he would be a couple mana short.
Considering saving the... excuse me. He's considering saving the sap right now. But yeah, he's going to go for it. All right. The question is, do you poison? All right.
Here we go.
We fit Shade, Piloted Shredder, Double Sap. Haven't seen a Shiv.
This series has been so close, like almost every single game, or every single game so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all just nail biters.
It's nuts.
Yeah. All of a sudden, Rogue's played 2 sprints. There's a Blood Mage draw, potentially, but I mean, there's not a whole
There's
lot
Eviscerate
more.
number 2. There's
Right.
also Blade Flurry number 2.
There is one more oil, right? I mean, we've only seen one play.
We only seen one oil.
There's a chance he only plays one, like you said, but I think, yeah.
Second oil. Yeah, there it is.
Lethal.
All right.
And looks like it's finally going to be able to be Max's turn to strike back, as he's going to push in for way too much damage this turn. And now we're going to head to the blind pick stage to see what these guys have.
Yeah, I'm happy not to see a sweep. I'd like to see more games from Max. And yeah, like you said, all 3 of them super close so far.
Wow. I love going into that blind pick stage.
Tense series, man.
There's a little more strategy involved once you get to that blind pick stage. It's not complete. It's blind pick still because you don't know what your opponent's going to pick, but there's still a little bit of thought behind it. There's mind games behind it. This, I think, is where this format shines, is because you give players a chance to recycle those decks that they think should have a better shot against the lineup that they're up against.
All right, well, now that they have similar classes, I guess even similar decks, like the Rogue both playing Shades, I mean, how does this line up? Like, we had the difference between Mage and Hunter. What's the class to pick in this blind pick stage?
Oh, man. That's tough to say, to be honest. Rogue's a pretty safe bet, I think.
Sure. Even if the opponent has Hunter?
Yeah, like the matchup isn't that bad if you play Farseers, and even Shade and X-Rams is actually surprisingly good. As long as you can get on board early, it's very easy to just keep Hunter behind the whole time. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. And, you know, there's lots of little interactions that make it tough for Hunter sometimes. Say the Rogue has coin, you can't really play Knife Juggler turn 2 because you just lose the game to SI Agent.
Right.
What about the Mech Mage?
Well,
I think the Mech Mage would be...
if you know your
Pretty
opponent
decent
has
choice.
Warrior, I mean, I feel like Mech Mage, it's really easy to shut down, especially if you're not playing Water Elementals.
That's true.
Yeah, Potted Shredder is pretty much equally good in that matchup too. It's like, I think Mech's also a pretty safe bet. Personally, it's probably what I would go with because I'm not particularly great at Hearthstone, and you just kind of play animals and win the game a lot of the time, like aggressive decks do. It's just a safe bet all around, but you're kind of leaving it
What are
up
you doing,
to the RNG gods.
You're disarming all your haters, man. You're making it less fun.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Broden.
You only care about
Making it less
yourself.
fun for you.
You're making it less fun. It's too easy at this point. Too easy.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a couple of seconds here. In the meantime, guys, make sure to let us know what you guys are thinking. Hashtag HLS on social media and join in on the conversation. Or you can tweet at ESL Hearthstone. Who knows? Maybe you'll to bring up your tweets or whatever post you make on Facebook throughout the broadcast. Let us know what's going on. I also like to issue out a challenge. One thing that we're doing here at the studio is giving away free packs to anybody who's here. In fact, just by coming to the studio and being part of the audience, you're going to get some codes for free packs. But we also like to give away a couple packs, and I'm going to give away my share to the best meme that's made out of this weekend. If you see a fun picture, if you see a fun play or event, the best meme gets a couple of free packs from the Frodan.
If you think that you are an epic memer
Yeah.
and can out-meme the Frodan himself.
No, out-meme the Chalky himself.
yeah.
He's here, so.
He is here
Yeah.
and just full of memes. So it's going to be a pretty epic meme off.
In the meantime, we've had a pretty epic series. You're giggling.
I was giggling.
man.
I just heard the word meme used like 20 times in a minute.
What a time to be alive.
What a time. Too early to explore the world. Or
Born too late to
explore the world. Yeah.
Casting too late to exploit Undertaker. That's what's going on.
Mm.
Born just in time to explore this dank series. Let's go into game number 4. And did you guys see the choices? Looks like it was Mage versus Hunter. No Rogues and no Warriors, despite them matching up evenly throughout the series.
There are so many mind games that go into this, the 4th and 5th matches, the blind pick stage. Just you have to sort of guess what your opponent's going to pick, but also try and make sure you shore up as many matchups as possible.
Is that a bomb lobber in Hunter?
Hello.
Yeah, get him. That card's sweet. Unconditional
It
Stampede
is.
Kodo. I would have liked him to see him keep Freezing Trap, though. it's surprisingly good just against Mech Mage early. Hunter's a deck that doesn't really have a hero power that can interact with the board. You don't really want to fall too far behind a single 2/3, or even like an opposing Mad Scientist. It's nice to just play a 2-mana Freezing Trap and just not really... the games go so fast that it's pretty common to just never play your minion once it gets Freezing Trapped, so I think it would have been a fine keep. But Snow Chugger's going to come down. He's playing Snow Chugger here over Mad Scientist because if the Hunter were to play Coin Eaglehorn Bow, the bow would be frozen for an additional turn, so definitely a good minion to lead off with there. And yeah, that's what I mean. The Freezing Trap, I'd like to see that played here.
Yeah, just kind of stall out. Snow Chugger's pretty problematic.
We saw earlier on, the Snow Chugger got Freezing Trapped earlier on. We saw this matchup earlier on, and it sat in the hand dead until like turn 11 or 12. So it's really hard to play a 4-mana 2/3, especially as Mech Mage, when you usually have so many plays, so many good plays every turn.
Well, if you don't first succeed, chug again. Second Chugger is still problematic for very much the same reasons. And this is what we were talking about before, Andre. You mentioned it. The power of the Dark Iron Dwarf is assuming you can have something to stick on the board. But now it's just assuming this Mad Scientist or anything else can't stick around. It's not as powerful.
Dwarf's a card I like to see in like very aggressive lists because you're going to be playing more early game minions. You're going to have control of the board early, and that's what Dwarf is there for, is to capitalize on that. You snowball, you trade up with something small. But this Hunter deck seems kind of all over the place. We're seeing cards like Bomb Lobber, we're seeing 2 Owls. Not really cards that stick on the board early. So it's interesting. I don't think that playing cards like Bomb Lobber and Owls is bad, and I also don't think playing Dark Iron Dwarf is bad. But playing them together is kind of counterintuitive because it's not... They don't really complement each other as well as I feel like they could.
Yeah, it's a good point. The synergy, like independently, they seem to be good value cards. Just is a synergy there.
It's like the deck overall can end up being inconsistent just because of how much you're trying to fit in, how many different things you're trying to fit into to just one deck.
I'm sure it feels a lot like playing Shaman back in the day, where if you draw Haunted Creeper, all of your deck's just great. Like all your Flame Tongues are... And then you hero power turn 2, and then you lose. So this is kind of the same thing. You draw Haunted Creeper with this list, it's fantastic. And you also have Mad Scientist, which is fine. So
the Pilot Shredder, again, another minion that's great. You save the Goblin Blast Mage for when you want to control the board, especially considering that Hunter might have a lot of those weaker minions with 1 health. If it has a Web Spinner or any dogs remain from Unleash the Hounds, it's pretty good at spraying there.
Speaking of spraying, I would like to see Bomb Lobber come down and just leave it up to...
Speaking of what?
It's not really a good segue at all, is it?
No, but
I'm not good at this yet.
I liked it.
Yeah. It's like me with an AK playing Counter-Strike. It's all random.
No, you playing with the AK is like the Blast Mage.
The Blast Mage usually kills stuff, though. The Bomb Lobber would hit the 2-1.
Oh, man. 3 versus 0. You're not even defending yourself.
It's too easy.
It's even easy for you.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like he elected instead to go for this Mad Scientist.
Maybe it's pretty easy for them to hold on to the board once they gain control. They have a lot of sticky creatures, a lot of things that are just going to be really tough to remove. And cards like Goblin Blast Mage, which when you have the board, makes it so that you're going to continue to keep the board.
Yeah.
That Stealth Spare part, pretty good pickup.
Oh, for sure.
I think we're just going to see that Shredder that was just drawn being played over the Blast Mage. I don't think you want to give them a secret just yet. But I guess the thinking here is you have Clockwork Gnome to proc
freezing.
Yeah. You've already seen 1 freezing, so maybe it's only
You've seen
explosive.
2, actually.
2 freezings? Right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm saying you've seen 1 play, but you know he runs 2.
Right.
Oh! All right, I can see it. That Bomb Lobbers you with an AK.
Yeah. And see, last turn, even if it hit the 2-1, you would have a 3-3 to deal with the front half of Piloted Shredder. So there wasn't like... In this case, there was an actually terrible outcome. Last turn, it wasn't as bad if it missed.
Well, you said it earlier that Clockwork Gnome was there also to proc the Freezing Trap, so now it makes it... I mean, it's not as bad as it would be if...
Oh.
There was like
He's
no
going to
trap.
Bomb Lob again?
He has the possibility to play it.
I mean, you'd rather toss that back than the Pilot Shredder, right?
Yeah. You have a chance, albeit small one, to take out the Bomb Lobber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. Mage feeling really confident going face here. With that hand, I would have preferred a trade.
I mean, he's got Antonitis, though. Antonitis stealth, so he's got the late game burn.
Yeah.
You can bring him down low enough.
It's also turn 6 against the Hunter, and he's at 30 health. So,
Oh, man. Great positioning on that stealth, by the way. He's going to play around an explosive shot very effectively.
A card I've seen people play on purpose lately, believe it or
Yeah?
not. Yeah.
You're not trolling?
No, I've seen it played, seriously.
you didn't think it was something else?
It's like a one of, yeah. I'm not. People are building like.
Is it like
slower,
Control Hunter?
Sorta, yeah. It has like
Okay.
Gazrilla or Garzilla. I don't know how you pronounce it. The large green animal.
Godzilla.
Yeah. And arcane shot and stuff. Yeah.
Arcane shot.
It's pretty
Shoot your
intense.
own Garzilla for lethal.
Yeah, get him.
Whatever works.
Just when you think you've seen it all.
I remember dying to 1 mana 6/7s just last month. Now I
1
gotta-
mana Boulder Fist Ogres?
Yeah, now you got to pay 7 mana for him.
Why have the times changed?
What
Well,
to do?
I mean, it's even if the high main is threatening, just look at it. The fact this Hunter can't really push for the win here. The mage is still going to do so much damage.
Yeah, the play here is definitely to ignore the high main.
3-pointer.
I think he'd
It's
actually want to see all 4 of those go to face, but that's actually a pretty good outcome.
Oh, baby, a triple. Down to 7. Is that it? I don't see a way for Hunter to get out of this. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, Max, he's down 1-2. If he loses this game, it's over him in the series, and Zalae moves to the winner's match. And that Eagle Horn bow might not be it.
oh,
Mana Rave! Oh, no. And that's going to do it. Zalae takes the first series of the Legendary Season 1 Finals in 3-1 fashion. Very good performance. And what a great start for our USA player.
yeah, super well played. MTGO Grinder Player of the Year, by the way.
2013.
Is so difficult to get in Magic Online. I mean, you have to play like 12 hours a day with an absurd win percentage. Like, so that's super impressive. But yeah, congratulations to him. I feel like both players played pretty well. Really close games too.
Yeah, the first 2 could have fallen either way if it was, and of course, with hindsight and full information, even then it was tough to make certain calls. So, very well played on Zalae's behalf. It's not over for Max just yet. He'll have to climb from the lower bracket. Something that he's done a couple times too. Max is a fighter. You know, even though he lost the series, you can definitely know that he's going to come back swinging. And of course, that means Zalae will be the first person to win of the day. It's very exciting to see him be able to perform well because I know he's recently focused more to Hearthstone. Before he used to kind of split. You know, he used to play Magic a lot, but now it's like, you know, he's pretty much full-time Hearthstone.
Both these guys were actually players that came from the open bracket as well. Zalae actually competed, I believe, in 3 or 4 weeks of the regular season out of 8. So that means he placed highly in the weeks that he played in earlier on to get invited back. So he definitely had a really grueling season, but his hard work paid off. Max as well, I believe, competed in 2 of the weeks. So these guys definitely proved themselves over the course of the season.
Yeah, you know, Zalae during the Legendary Series, the weeks, we just kept seeing him come back.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe it was because the system was like win once and you keep coming back, but it was also making some pretty impressive plays. His decks that you mentioned were also pretty innovative based off of what he was seeing too, you know, some of his combo lock stuff. Didn't really bring it this weekend, but we saw his list of decks so far. Seems pretty solid compared to, you know, his play as well.
Yeah, all pretty safe bets. I'm happy to see 2 Warriors in like so early because the class we haven't seen in a long time in tournaments, but I really feel like this is a great weekend to bring it out because you can expect a lot of rogue. You can punish some face hunters that people bring. Yeah, so it's nice to see just kind of some newer classes being played every week.
For sure. And we're just getting started, guys. You know, we definitely are going to have a lot more Hearthstone. We have 6 matches today, 7 tomorrow to determine who's going to be able to win it. And remember, hashtag HLS on social media to let us know what's going on there with it. You can tweet at ESL Hearthstone on Twitter. I think ESL Hearthstone's also on Facebook for anybody using that. I don't know if we have a Google Plus account yet. Maybe we should start that, but it's 2015. I don't know if anyone still uses Google Plus. I don't think we're going to get a Google sponsor anytime soon.
You got to comment on YouTube videos somehow.
Sounds good. We also want to thank Plantronics for hopping on mid-season and joining us. You saw the headsets that the players are using. The Plantronics gear has been given away. We gave away 2 rig headsets as well as a lot of expert packs, and it's all thanks to them. Getting involved with the Legendary Series is awesome. It's just the first season, and Season 2 details will be released more throughout the broadcast. We're done here on the couch for the first series. Thanks so much for watching. We're going to get ready with an interview with Anna, with Zalae, the winner of the previous series.
Thank you very much, Frodan. And indeed, this is the winner's couch. I am joined here today by Noble Esports' very own Zalae, who won our first best of 5. How are you feeling?
Awesome. That was great. It was a really fun match.
And I mean, you're $1,000 richer, just like that. What, 4 ladder games? How does that feel?
I'm having a pretty good day right now. Like, I really, really enjoy those games. There were a lot of close moments. I was happy to win. He's a tough player.
So tell me a little bit about, we cannot sadly discuss much about your cards because all the deck lists aren't uploaded, but tell me a little bit about when you saw, Rogue versus Warrior, and then Mage versus Hunter, and then last game, the third game, the one that you lost, you actually lost out. Vice versa, Warrior versus Rogue. Tell me a little bit about what was going in your mind during the first game.
The first game, I queued Rogue into Warrior, and my heart sank. It was like, oh no, this is not.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, not where I want to be. But fortunately, I had a great hand, and so things worked out just barely.
Well, just barely indeed, because he was 1 off lethal, and you almost, spoiler alert, Max was also 1 off lethal the next game. Speaking about the next game, Mage versus Hunter, how did you feel about that matchup?
It could go either way. It's a difficult game. It was very close.
Well, very close indeed, and you did win it. Congratulations. Now, Warrior versus Rogue, the roles were switched this time around. What happened there?
Right, so I'm 2-0. I have what I think is a good matchup. I'm feeling confident, and then I lose. So it's the way it goes.
It didn't really seem to stop you, though. I was watching you on the monitor. You grabbed your head a few times, but then again, afterwards, you queued Mage into Hunter, and you won with that concede. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, the fourth game wasn't as exciting as the first 3, I would say. But I was definitely happy to win it. It was awesome.
What are some of your predictions for the next games? In the next games, we're going to have Team Magic Amy Silent Storm versus Liquid Savitz. Who do you think is going to be winning that one?
I had a really tough match against Savitz to qualify for this. He's a really good player, so I would bet on him.
Would you think he can take the whole tournament?
No, I'm here.
There we go. Shots fired. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with Zalae here? Tweet us your predictions at #HLS, and we will be back after this short break. You are currently watching the Hearthstone Legendary Series. Don't go anywhere.